How do you feel about Doge? How do you feel about XRP, Ripple? How do you feel about, Ethereum? Where are you with the other three?
Know all of them extremely well. Know Brad very well at XRP, and he's done a great job. Know Ethereum very well. I'm one of the guys who was early on this year saying buy Ethereum as it's crashing, and Ethereum's come ripping back. I mean, I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. I'm a big fan of Ethereum. Bitcoin is digital gold. Ethereum is definitely the oil by which all financial systems are going to run on, and they've done tremendously well. And I think honestly, cryptocurrency, all the altcoins, I think are going to do well as Bitcoin rips. Those are going to follow.
Breaking news, Ripple's U.S. banking charter is due this October. And with the market in an uptrend and Bitcoin creating a brand new all-time high, it is more important than ever for the newer retail investor to understand this journey is just getting started. And during today's episode, we're going to highlight the major changes that are on the horizon, not only for Bitcoin, not only for Ethereum, but specifically for the XRP community. And again, the major topic for today is Ripple is on the verge of receiving a U.S. banking charter here inside the United States, not just benefiting the company Ripple, but definitively benefiting XRP holders. And that's what we're going to take our listeners through later on in this episode, reducing uncertainty, adding transaction volume, and driving price surges due to this new utility and demand. It is about to get exciting for the XRP community because of the catalyst that we're going to highlight today. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Good Evening Crypto, your favorite crypto news related channel. If you guys enjoy this content, smash that like button and subscribe, as you're going to get an update every single day, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. And the major topic that we're going to kick off today's episode with, Johnny, is the Ripple banking charter decision that is due this October. Now, we were waiting on a couple of major sign-offs, and we received those as Stuart Alderati and Timothy Keeney both signed these documents on June 30th. Now, why is that important? Because the specific application was filed on June 30th, the OCC has 120 days to make a decision on whether Ripple should receive a banking charter. Now, why is this beneficial to the company Ripple? If granted, the charter would allow for Ripple to operate as a federally regulated trust bank, holding reserves and integrating payment rails here inside the United States. This would be the mass adoption moment that we're waiting for. And when people often talk about the flip of the switch, Johnny Crypto, ETFs have been the center of the discussion here in 2025, but the real switch is when these banks switch their systems behind the scenes. When Bank of America is connecting Fidelity due to blockchain products, that's the moment that we see demand and utility hit a brand new all-time high. And with this OCC application less than 30 days away from receiving an approval, in my opinion, the floodgates are about to open even before the Clarity Act is passed here inside the United States. But I'd love to hear from the live chat. One's if you believe this gets approved. Two's if you think the OCC gets a delay. But Johnny Crypto, what would this mean to you as a longtime Ripple investor? We are on the verge of watching Ripple become a U.S. national bank here inside the United States.
Well, Abs, I can't tell you, this would be massive transformation for Ripple if they get this license, because at the end of the day, now what it does is literally turns them into a bank, right? It literally now, first of all, they can custody RLUSD. Right now, they're using a third party to do that, so they can bring that home and in-house. But more importantly, you get access to the Fed. When you get access to the Fed money, the whole infrastructure now becomes yours. And third, and probably the most important part, is now they can single-handedly marry traditional FI to DeFi. They literally can bring everything from the blockchain together and do it. Fiat, I can almost call it like paper to digital. They don't need banks anymore to do it. They could do it themselves. They wouldn't need partners, I should say. So to me, it's a massive transformation for them, Ripple, the company. And what's great about it, if they do get it, Abs, is then it also brings on quicker use cases, if you will, of XRP itself. So to me, it's massive. I mean, we're going to be see how it pans out. I'm excited about it. Finally, we're at the moment of truth. We're going to find out if they get it or not, but it's going to be huge for them if this pans out and comes through.
And when you think about what popular educators like Jay Claver have been stating, they are stating this is the catalyst that XRP investors should be waiting for. Ripple becoming a national bank and many of these banking partners finally turning on the blockchain products they've been perfecting for years. This is when we see demand reach an all-time high for the XRP community in a way that we've never seen before. And you think about the backdrop of this whole narrative, Johnny, what's the main objective that we've been discussing this week? Well, Swift representatives have come out and stated that they're going to be tapping blockchain products going forward. And I love what this comment out of an XRP member had to say on Twitter, where he said, this is just a reminder. The banking cartel is so scared because for the first time ever, you can cut them completely out of the game. Ripple is creating a level playing field for 99% of the banks, and they don't benefit off this new system. As an individual, you can just use the XRPL directly or a consumer payment app to benefit from this technology and be your own bank without ever again asking permission to use your own money. So when people say, why are some of these large banks such a contrarian when it comes to the adoption of the crypto space? It's not because they don't believe in the technology. It's not because they're not going to use the technology.
Right.
It's that they won't benefit financially off of this new technology and this new system.
Well, I would say a little different. It's they haven't figured out yet how to benefit off this new system, because they certainly can. And that's what they're trying to figure out. Is this system kind of cuts out the middleman, which is them. And they're trying to figure out, well, how do we then become the system? How do we be part of it so that we don't get cut out of this? And that's what this whole slowdown has been. And I think that's what the lawsuits have been about. And finally, banks are figuring out how to get in there, right? And they're either going to have their own chain or they're going to leverage someone else's chain and then start charging fees for it. The bottom line is this, Abs, when you think about it, if you were to step back and think about what the banking system is today and what it was 100 years ago and what it's going to be 50 years from now, it's going to be very, very different from what it looks like today. And that is the part that I couldn't agree more with that tweet. The banking system is in a transformation and it's coming so fast. And they are certainly fearful of technologies that could obsolete or cannibalize them. So they have to figure out the best way to prevent somebody from cannibalizing your company is for you to cannibalize it. And that's what they're doing. Banks are in the process right now of figuring out how do we leverage and integrate blockchain technologies so they don't wipe us out.
And guys, if you're excited about the future of this technology, show us some love, smash that like button, and keep tuning into Good Evening Crypto, as we're going to give you guys an update every single day. And it feels like every single day, there's a brand new update to cover for the XRP community. Now, for a long time, Johnny, we've been talking about the new ETF demand that's on the horizon, specifically for XRP. And we showed these predictions from JP Morgan, 8 billion, Sal Gilberti was 20 billion, but we also had the Canary Capital CEO predict 5 billion in initial inflows, meaning the first 4 weeks. Well, he has updated that prediction here on the Paul Barron podcast, where he's talking about how he wouldn't be entirely surprised if XRP outperforms Bitcoin on what futures did. He stated, I think XRP does $2 to $3 billion on day one. Let's hear what he has to say and break it down.
What was it, like 3.2 billion in the first 3 billion in one day. So the capacity there for an ETF of seeing in excess of 5 billion in a month for XRP, you feel is underreported.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that's a very safe bet, in my opinion. I certainly think that. I mean, let's go kind of back in time when we launched Bitcoin futures when I was with another firm.
Mm-hmm.
The first day there was over $1 billion in inflows, which made it at the time one of the top 10 of all time.
Yeah.
Second Bitcoin futures ETF to launch was still like number 14 of all time at 100 million. So, and that's just day one. So if you think what Bitcoin futures did, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if XRP outperforms what Bitcoin futures did. It's not going to have the same level as Bitcoin, obviously, right. But if it was $1 billion in one day, I mean, I think XRP does 2 or 3 billion day one.
Interesting. Well, and the performance of futures has been pretty significant for XRP. So if that's any indicator, obviously that could be huge.
Now, what I believe to be the most important part of this data here is that $1 billion worth of inflows into Bitcoin, for example, it's only 1/2500th of the total market cap. If we saw $1 billion worth of inflows for an XRP spot product, and he's actually predicting double or triple that number, that would be 1/180th of the entire market cap. Meaning, if there was $180 invested in XRP, one of those dollars is now coming from the ETFs. And so with that dramatic impact having a much larger impact on the inflows, we could see the price appreciation quickly follow for the XRP community. And there's a bunch of narratives that are connecting here in 2025 between the ETFs being approved. We've got the federal banking charter that we just discussed, and we have the Clarity Act on the precipice of being approved. You could title this episode Wall Street's Adoption of XRP, because when all these catalysts come to fruition, the ETFs, the banking upgrades, the Clarity Act, Wall Street will have no excuse but to start adopting these assets. And I think a lot of our listeners are experiencing this in their daily lives as well. You go out and talk to people about cryptocurrencies now as opposed to 2 years ago, they're much more comfortable and open-minded about these topics. And I think we're only going to continue to see that during the entire Trump administration. And with Bitcoin creating a brand new all-time high today, it's a very exciting time to be an XRP member as well. Because what we typically know about Bitcoin is that project moves, we watch Ethereum move thereafter, and XRP is third in that line. And we see XRP's price chart continue to outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum here in 2025. If you believe that's the case, smash that like button. But Johnny Crypto, what's your take? $2 to $3 billion worth of inflows on day one, according to Canary Capital CEO.
I mean, that's massive. When you look at it as comparison, as you just rightfully pointed out, the size or impact of the money flow coming in from a percentage perspective is much more impactful on the XR, can be much more impactful on the XRP price than it was on Bitcoin because of that. So there's no doubt about it that, and there is also, we hear there's a ton of demand. When you talk to a lot of these Wall Streeters or people who are, have their ear to the street or in the business, they literally tell you that there's people excited on the sidelines wanting to get into the XRP space, wanting to get into investing into it. And that's why there's so many ETF proposals. We got like 19 of them out there. You didn't see that many for Bitcoin or for Ethereum because the demand is so high for this product. So it's not inconceivable to me to believe that we could see a massive impact on day one or day two. And that will definitely, I would think, have a massive impact on the price early on. Again, as we think about the multiplier factor too, when you build that all in, Abs, we're looking at a potentially, substantial increase in the price on day one for XRP.
And that's what I'm anticipating, guys. And that is why I'm an advocate for the Merlin application. Click on the link below this video and create yourself a plan for the crypto bull market today. Because what's the number one difference between institutions and retail investors? Institutions have a plan on when they're going to be exiting this asset class, while retail investors have that plan that they're going to hold until 589. If you want to give yourselves the same strategic advantage that institutional investors here have inside the United States, click on the link below, sign up for Merlin today, and create your profit plan so you know exactly where you're going to be exiting these assets. And I've showed our listeners for a long time, if many of the dramatically high price predictions come to fruition, Johnny, the biggest concern for the XRP community isn't going to be, did I make money? The biggest concern is, how do I make the most of this money? And what we've seen for the XRP community in particular is that when we hit these euphoric moments in the market, prices pump higher than many people predict. But during the bear market, the price will also crash lower. And that's why, having been in this space since 2019, the number one thing I believe separates successful investors from unsuccessful investors is having a plan on when they're going to exit the asset. So guys, if you haven't figured out exactly where you're going to be taking profit, click on the link below, sign up for Merlin today, 30 days completely free. And again, you're going to have the same strategic advantage going forward that many of these institutions have.
Thank you.
Tying all this into the XRP price chart and what I believe we're on the precipice of here is that when you look at the 1 month chart, which is actually the most relevant piece of data you could look at besides the yearly chart, we are already trading in all-time high ranges. And let me say that again, XRP above $3 is higher than we had any trading days all the way back in 2018. There's a misconception here that XRP was a $4 asset only for a couple transactions dating back to that 2017 bull market. Today, we're talking about 9, 10, 11 months trading above $2. And the majority of that, Johnny, has actually happened above that $2.20 price target. But what am I looking at here? XRP has spent over 9 months building support near the neckline of this massive W pattern. It has also spent the same amount of time in consolidation below the 1.618 Fibonacci extension. Now, why is this relevant? Once we start to get a monthly closure above $3.02, you can anticipate bullish momentum like we've been predicting here since all the way back in 2020. And I'm anticipating that for the XRP community members who are buying into many of these narratives that we also believe, the ETFs, the Clarity Act, Wall Street adoption, and of course, maybe the most important one, the US banking charter that we just broke down during today's episode, this is the price appreciation, flip of the SWIP euphoria moment that we've all been waiting for, Johnny. And if I believe that, I think there's thousands of people out there that can sense that as well. What's your reaction to all this news?
You know what, Abs? I couldn't agree with you more. There's so many catalysts coming that are going to drive this price appreciation up. And for me, the challenge and the hard part is when we're at $4, they're going to be telling you you're going to 10. And when we're at 10, they're going to be telling you to 20. So you need to have a profit plan. I couldn't agree with you more. For me, I love Merlin because not only do I get to use it, I feel I can check my account and know that it's safe, Abs, because with Merlin, we don't have your keys, we don't have your coins. Whereas if you're logging into your Coinbase or your Kraken when you're on the road, that's a very dangerous position to be in. So, you know, it gives me just the safety to know that, hey, I got my exit plan in place and I know my account is safe. I can look at it anywhere, anytime. And that's why I only use Merlin when I'm checking my portfolio. That gets me excited. And when you think about now the catalysts, as we talked about, that are coming along the way, we've got the Clarity Act, we got the ETFs, we got the potential Ripple license. You can see that there's so many things that are going to start driving institutional investing, but not only that, retail money into this space. And when you start talking about that combination of those things coming in, the price for appreciation could be it could be what they call face melting, right? We could get some serious rips because we're talking about significant amounts of money coming into a very short period of time. $1 to $2 billion. That's a big inflow, right? So people need to be prepared, and we've given them the tools to do it, right? Just click the link below, guys, and sign up for a free 30-day trial. To me, that's what we want, Abs. We want to see our viewers make money in this space. And we know that that moment is coming, but if you're not prepared, you're going to end up being a rubbernecker. I say this all the time. You're going to watch your account go all the way up, and you're going to watch it come all the way down. Don't let that happen to you. Don't be a rubbernecker, my friend. Take advantage of the price appreciation that I think is coming soon in XRP.
And that we agree upon, Johnny. So in summary, guys, we're going to take you through the articles and the most important bullet points that we covered during today's episode. Now, Ripple is on the verge of receiving a U.S. banking charter, and that is starting here in October of 2025. So the initial application was filed on July 2nd, 2025, and the public comment period ran until August 4th. Now, what's important about this is that the OCC typically issues rulings within 120 days of the filing, placing the deadline on October 30th, 2025. Now, a companion request is that Ripple is also seeking a Fed master account for direct access into the Fed system, which likely would be decided alongside this charter, like you had referenced earlier, Johnny Crypto. Shout out to you. Now, more importantly, why is this important for XRP and Ripple investors? If granted, the charter would allow for Ripple to operate as a federally regulated trust bank, holding reserves and integrating with existing payment rails. That is the mass adoption moment we've all been waiting for. And I'm not reading that off the back of my hand, Johnny Crypto. That is from an official Financial Times report. Now, one more detail I think everybody's interested in. What does this do for the XRP community? Everybody says, how will this impact my bags? How is this going to change the value in my portfolio? It's exactly what I'm going to show you guys right now, because when you think about XRP, what does it really come down to? It comes down to the supply that is circulating in the market and the underlying demand that is competing for those tokens. Going forward, we are going to see massive advantages, not only for the company Ripple, but for the XRP investors who have been here since 2017. Now, what is this going to do for Ripple? Gaining OCC oversight and credibility will allow for new partnerships. It's going to have operations that are faster and cheaper via the Fed master account, and expanding into new financial services into untouched markets. So entering the American markets and bringing blockchain products to the customers. Now, for XRP holders in particular, this is going to reduce uncertainty, and it's going to boost investor confidence as well as price stability, because there's going to be this underlying demand that exists even during a bear market. This is going to increase the XRP transaction volume and the underlying utility for the token, as there's going to be, once again, more demand for new use cases involving XRP than we've ever seen before. And this could drive a potential 100% price surge from adoption. Now, again, that's some Gronk speculation there, Johnny, but the point is absolutely clear. We are on the precipice right here in 2025 of the entire financial system going digital. And we started this episode with Eric Trump talking positively about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. And what did he say about XRP? Brad's doing some great stuff over there. We agree. If you guys enjoyed this content and you're excited about the future, show us some love, smash that like button, and we'll see you all in the next one.
Good night.